Hardly will you see professionals who are practicing in certain areas like lawyers, teachers, like doctors, resigning from their jobs to become farmers. This week on The Ghanaian Farmer, I'm all the way in Uganda, precisely in the district court in Bali, to engage a young doctor who has resigned from his vocation to become a poultry farmer. I'm talking about the most popular chicken farmer here in Uganda. Dr. Daniel Masaba is my guest this week on The Ghanaian Farmer. My name is Daniel and this is The Ghanaian Farmer. Wherever you're watching us from, subscribe and share the videos. I'm going for a quick breather. When I come back, I would be having an interesting conversation with him and also explore his chicken farm. Of course, he took us to his goat farm that he's been showing you on his channel up the hill. Stay tuned, I'll be right back. So it's my pleasure finally meeting you.
Thank you.
I've been one of your biggest fan all the way from Ghana.
Thank you.
And I must say thank you for having us. You know, one of my followers in the UK, I told him I'm coming to see Dr. Daniel. And he said, did he actually allow you to come to his farm? Because he always says no entry to my farm. But here we are today with our biggest farmer. Daniel.
Yes, please.
Whoa. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, sure. Glad to have you here.
Thank you very much. But first of all, like my senior content creator would ask, is it okay? Like, was it all right for you to have walked out from medicine and then come to start farming? You even posted on your social media, people asking, there are sick people to take care of, earn good money, drive a big car, and you said, I want to be a farmer. How does that sound when people raise these questions to you?
Yeah. Well, I have a lot of personal beliefs and thoughts about such things, you know, quitting your job to do what you would want. But in the end, there's something called purpose. You know, everyone finds fulfillment in something. Yeah. What someone else finds fulfillment in, someone else won't find fulfillment in. It's not like I didn't find fulfillment in being a doctor, but when I started farming, I felt like I found a greater purpose. You understand? Now, it's understandable that when you're in hospital, you can treat one person, treat two, treat three people. When you're farming, you're feeding a nation. You're feeding nations. You're feeding a lot of people. You understand? Currently, eggs from just this farm alone, you know, are taken to schools.
Okay.
You understand? So I'm feeding people in schools.
Exactly.
You understand? So I'm keeping people healthy. And unlike what would happen in a hospital where I'm treating sick people. So I'm trying to prevent people from getting sick. You understand?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's the longest and short answer to your question. Now moving forward, in which year did you actually start the farm?
So I started farming in 2019.
Okay.
In May 2019. That's when I brought my very first batch of chickens. So it's about 5 years right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you advised by someone to do chickens, or you just had something for chickens?
No. You see, when I was starting to farm, I simply wanted to do a business.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I went and met this guy who was a greenhouse farming expert. I wanted to do greenhouse farming. We meet, we have a very long conversation. He's giving me all the guidelines. And when we are separating, he tells me, I think chickens might be a better option.
Okay.
I found it really crazy because the greenhouse expert is telling me chickens are a better option. So I went back and I read a lot about poultry farming, and that's what I decided to do. So it's simply because it made business sense, I would say. Yeah. In the end, most of us, the reason we do this is for money.
Okay.
You understand?
Right.
So for me, it made the most business sense, and that's why I decided to go with poultry farming. And by the time I started, honestly, there wasn't too much advice to get from a lot of people.
There's this debate about startup farmer, rent the land instead of buying. For you, did you inherit, did you rent, or you bought?
I used my dad's land. So I don't know if you'd call that rent. I think it's renting, but on a more acceptable level.
Okay.
Yeah? So I used my dad's land. But if you, whichever way you can get the land to start, as long as the agreement you have with the landowner is a sensible one, I think it's okay. Because when it does come to farming, farming is very capital intensive. Because it involves land.
Right.
And land is not cheap, in all honesty. So it's not like a lot of other businesses where, for example, you want to start a shop, you just go and rent a shop somewhere. For farming, most times you need land. And that requires a lot of land.
Right.
So any opportunity you can take to shortcut that and not spend so much money on the land,
Yes.
but spend most of the money on the things that actually bring you money. So if it's growing crops, on the crops themselves.
Yeah.
If it is animals, goats, on the goats themselves. That's what you want to utilize.
Okay.
Then when you have the money coming in, then you can utilize the money to buy land.
Yes.
So right now I'm on about 2.8 acres right here.
Okay.
But when I was starting out, I borrowed my dad's land.
Right.
When the farm was making money,
Yeah.
I could then utilize money from that farm to buy this land.
Okay.
You understand?
So this one is bought.
Exactly. This one
Okay.
is bought. But
Now-
when you're starting out, you don't need to buy.
Yes.
Yes.
One of your biggest advice is location matters. Location matters. Is it mainly has to do with what you are going to do on the land, or you just don't want people to do farming in areas where they can disturb neighbors? What is it with locations for you?
Yeah, in the end, the main reason you're starting a farm is to sell.
Okay.
Unless you're doing it for a hobby. You know, in Uganda,
Yes.
there are people from Western Uganda. They are called the Banyankore.
Yes.
They love keeping cows.
Okay.
Because for them it is pride.
Right.
Yeah, they love to have cows. Yeah. Now, if you're keeping animals for such a reason, you can keep them anywhere you want. But if you're doing it for business, then the location is very key.
Okay.
Very, very important because number one, you need to make sure that wherever you're starting your farm is close to the market.
Okay.
You must have market.
Right.
You don't want to incur so much money transporting your products to the market.
Yes.
And also because farming products a lot of the times, number one, are perishable, but number two, they are fragile. For example, eggs. You understand? If you want to transport eggs 500 kilometers away, by the time I reach, I've lost 2% or 5%
Of
of the
course.
eggs.
Of
You're
course.
losing money.
Of course.
So you want to be as close to the market as possible. That's why number
Okay.
one. But number two, raw materials.
Okay.
You understand? If you're in a place, for example, about a month ago, I was in Juba. There's someone who wanted to start a farm over there. Now, it's okay for him to start a farm there because the market is so high, but the raw materials are almost non-existent. You have to transport raw materials from Kampala or from Uganda, maybe
Yeah.
sometimes. So it's a really long distance, so it might not be such a good idea. In the end, you might notice it just makes sense for you to put your farm in a particular area and just transport the product, depending on how available the raw materials are.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, your structure or concept of structure for poultry farming has also sparked a lot of debate among farmers who are already doing and those who are about to start with what structure is best. Why are you causing confusion? Where did you get this concept of poultry pen from?
Yes, you see, the thing that I've noticed about farmers a lot of times, from my past experience and after being in farming for a while now, is that most farmers never look at farming as a business.
Okay.
You understand? You need to understand that farming is a business.
Right.
So I personally don't only look at it as a farmer, but as a businessman. You understand? And if you're looking at a business as a businessman, you have to put the money where the money is.
Okay.
You understand? Where is the money when
Right.
it does come to chickens? The chickens themselves and the feed. Those are the two main things. So never ever compromise on the feed of the chickens, never compromise on the quality of the chickens. Everything else you can compromise on as
Okay.
long as the birds are comfortable.
Right.
Yeah. So chickens, for example, don't give a damn. They don't
Okay.
care whether the house is made from iron sheets, whether the house is made from timber, or whether the house is made from glass and marble. You understand? As long as it's comfortable for them, they'll be inside there. Now, for me, I've adapted this because I've found out it works. Yeah. Number one, the main reason you wouldn't want to use particular materials for your chicken house is if the materials are, I would say, dirty. You understand? They bring diseases. But iron sheets, for example, are clean. There's nothing, there's no insect that can hide in an iron sheet. There is no rats that are going to hide in an iron sheet. Everything is clear. Everything is visible. So it's easy to clean. The wooden poles, they can last a really long time. I mean, have you seen electricity poles that are used for electricity? They can last 10, 15 years.
Exactly.
Yeah? So they can last a long time if
Yes.
you utilize them really well.
Right.
So because of that, then I found out my houses are very comfortable. I mean, you can sit inside there and eat food.
Okay.
Yeah, you can have your meal, you can have everything you want from inside there. So if it's comfortable enough for the birds, everything else doesn't matter.
Okay.
So that's why I do that, to
Right.
invest as little as possible in the structures and invest as much as possible in the birds and keep as much as possible in my pocket.
Okay. Now, before we come to the varieties or breeds of birds you have, you were saying that you can start farming without money.
Yeah.
How did you? Your father has borrowed you his land, but the money to buy your birds, to put up the structure, is it not money? How did you do that?
Well, that's a bit tricky.
Okay.
In all reality, like I told you,
Yes.
starting a farm requires money.
Okay.
You can't start a farm without money.
Okay.
But
yes,
you can start a farm with as little money as possible.
Okay.
For example, we've been talking about chicken houses. Someone would imagine that to build your chicken house, you need to build a chicken house from blocks, you know, put all this kind of stuff. You don't need to do that. You can make it as cheap as possible. Also, you can start with as few birds as possible.
Okay.
The one thing that I've learned is that the most important thing is to get the ball rolling.
Okay.
Once the ball rolling,
Yeah.
the only thing that can happen is it can only run quicker. You understand? As long as it's not rolling, you're not sure of anything else. So for me particularly, I started out with 800 chickens. You understand? Currently on this farm alone, I now have 10,000 chickens. On the breeder farm, at one point, I've raised over 70,000 chickens in one go. You understand? So I understand that you can grow, you get. But the most important thing is to get the ball rolling. So what do you do? Just make sure you have a job. You know, I get a lot of people coming to my inbox. People come to my inbox and they're like, hey, Dr. Daniel, I have my business plan. I've done all this stuff.
Yes.
The only thing I'm missing is money.
Okay.
Can you give me some money to start my farm?
Yes.
I'm like, you guy, are you crazy? You know, I'm working and I just give you money. So I would rather give it to my daughter,
Right.
to my wife to go for a holiday.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
So you have to work. Yeah. I can only invest in something that has proof of concept. For example, my farms work.
Yes.
Because they work, every day I get people sending me emails. They want to invest with me. You understand? But no one is going to come and invest with you without a proof of concept.
Exactly.
You understand?
Yes.
So get the ball rolling. If you want to go clean toilets, go clean toilets. Go do whichever work that you can do. Get the amount of money that you have collected and then start your farm.
Okay.
You understand?
Yes.
So start with as little as you can. As soon as you get the ball rolling, it becomes easier for you to expand because now you have money coming in.
Okay. Now you mentioned you started with 800 birds.
Yes.
Is that the size to start off with for everybody?
No. It's not the size to start off for anybody. Some people can start with 200 chickens. I know people who have started with 100 chickens.
Okay.
And right now they have 10,000 chickens.
Right.
You understand?
Okay.
So you can start with any number. The number is not so important as long as it brings money to you.
Okay.
Because the thing with farming is that there's a lot of learning.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of learning because when you start out, farming has a lot of heartbreaks. Yeah, it has a lot of heartbreaks. Sometimes you know, seasons can become really terrible.
Exactly.
Yeah, your crops could completely disappear and die.
Yes.
The market can become really bad.
Very bad.
When I started my breeder farm, I started at a point just I think it was just after COVID. And there was no one buying the products. Yeah, I was giving away products for free, completely for free.
Right.
And I had to put in expenses, so it can be quite difficult.
Okay.
But that experience is important. So if you're starting with your 100 chickens, you're gaining this experience.
Okay.
This is knowledge that you're going to utilize later on, even when you have 1,000 birds. You see, the funny thing is, raising from the beginning to your first maybe 2,000 birds is usually the hardest
thing to do.
Yeah, it's the hardest. After that, it's simply about scaling because you have money available.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
But the practices you're going to use that you used while you have 2,000 birds are the same things you're going to utilize when you have 50,000 or 100,000 birds.
Of course.
But those things you learnt them in those difficult times.
Okay.
You understand? So don't start with too many birds because the risk becomes too much for you.
Yeah. Now, when you were starting, did you start with layers or broilers? Which is which?
I started with layers because in the location where I am, people don't eat broilers. You know, in village settings, people don't like broilers.
Exactly.
They prefer the local chickens because they believe they are tastier.
Okay.
Yes. Now the broilers, they would have been harder. I could have sold maybe 200, 300, but huge numbers, it's difficult. Yeah.
Okay. So that means that your market determines whether you do broilers or layers.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, poultry farming come with a lot of farm management practices. What are these that you've put in place that has helped you grow to this extent?
Yeah, some of them are really nice and some of them are not nice for other people. For example, I don't allow visitors on my farm. Yeah, you're very special, I'll tell you that. Yeah, you're very special. I rarely ever let visitors onto the farm because they pose a disease risk. Yeah, I personally have suffered from that before. Yeah, I had 1,000 chickens and I think they just started laying. They should have been around 26 weeks, which is like peak production. And they got sick. I had to sell them off after investing over $10,000 in those birds.
So no visitors.
I don't allow visitors on the farms. Yeah. Number two, I try to make sure that the staff who work on the farm reside on the farm.
Okay.
That also minimizes the risk of interaction with the outside environment, which then risks bringing diseases onto the farm. You understand? understand?
Okay.
So if someone has to come onto the farm,
yes,
usually it's some form of contract work, which is
right,
like 1 day work or 2 day work. And so for those days, we can take extra precaution. You see, you can take extra precaution for 2 days, but it's difficult to do it forever.
Okay.
Yeah? So for those 2 days, we can do it, take extra precaution to make sure we don't get diseases. Another one is to make sure that I get the correct feed.
Okay.
Yeah? You need to make sure you have high quality feed. A lot of farmers try to make shortcuts. When you make shortcuts because you want to save, the problem then ends up being that the chickens don't produce.
Okay.
And if the chickens don't produce what you require,
Right.
you're not going to get money.
Of course.
You understand?
Of course.
So you don't make shortcuts when
Okay.
it does come to the birds.
Right.
And another one is simply learning how to deal with it like a business. Like I've told you, yeah? Focus on the majors and don't focus on the minors. You understand? Focus on the majors, the things that are actually going to bring you money, the things that can save you money. The thing about farming is you have to understand that you must run it as a business. And what does that mean? Delegating.
Okay.
A business can't succeed or can't prevail with you doing everything. You'll break down. You understand? You reach a particular point and you're tired.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
Now, for example, right here,
Yeah.
I have, I don't know, on the farm, in the
Yes.
chicken houses themselves, this is 2, 4, 6,
Yeah.
8. I have 8 workers. I have the managers. I have the guys who do, the logistics, the cooking. How do I handle all that? How do I start feeding all the birds myself? You understand? How do I handle the selling of the birds? You understand? So you have to get people who you can trust.
Okay.
Train them
Right.
the correct way.
Okay.
Make sure they understand what to do, and then give them the ability to do the work.
Okay.
You understand? And simply just follow up, do monitoring and things like that. If
Okay.
you want to do everything yourself, you can only remain on a small level.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, about marketing, because nobody invests money without expecting something. How did you get, go by looking for people to buy your chicken or your eggs? How do you find them? Because marketing is one of the biggest headache of farmers. How do we go, or how do we get people to buy for us?
You see, the one thing I've noticed is that usually the biggest problem with farmers is not ideally the market, but maintaining the market. You see, everyone puts in some form of hard work to get market.
Yes.
When I was starting out right here, I had to put in work to get, the people who buy.
Yes, yes.
And with time you'll get them, yeah?
Okay.
Occasionally what will happen is that someone will have a particular supplier.
Right.
And one day the supplier disappoints them, they come to you. That is the opportunity to get market.
Okay.
You understand?
Okay.
You have to treat that client, they're like they're your girlfriend,
Right.
or like they're your boyfriend.
Right.
You understand?
Okay.
Once you treasure someone and hold them preciously,
Yes. They stay
then
with you forever.
retain them.
Right.
You understand?
Okay.
So the biggest problem is that usually market is there.
Yes.
The problem is that the market gets divided.
Okay.
Another farmer takes part of
Yes.
the market, another one takes part
Yes.
of the market. You want to retain all those people. How do you do that? Make sure that those people feel like living is a loss. Yeah. So number one, you need to create a nice working relationship with them. You understand? Good communication. It's not a problem that sometimes you won't have product. But when you don't have product, call them, let them know. You understand? Then they will feel like, oh, I'm precious to this person. You understand? They don't just come and bounce. They want to get, call them, let them know. Once they could go and get someone else, but they hold you precious.
Of course.
Because they know the way you treat them
Yeah.
is different from
Yeah.
the other people treat them.
Yeah.
So at the beginning, as I was starting out, of course, I started with a few birds. I kept going and looking for market over here. But the thing with me is that once I get you as market,
Yeah.
I try to make
You
sure I
stay
never lose
forever.
you. Exactly.
Now, feed is one of the biggest challenge. It's either feed is expensive or the feed I bought is not good for my birds. For you, for all these years, with all this knowledge and experience, are you still buying all your feed, or you find ways to actually prepare your own feed?
Yeah, it's kind of a hybrid.
Okay.
Yeah? So I buy raw materials and mix them myself.
Right.
Yeah, I buy raw materials and mix them myself. And the advantage is that it saves me in terms of cost,
Right.
but also it's not so cheap. Yeah. So like I was telling you, the thing that you can't take shortcuts with is the feed.
Okay.
You can't make shortcuts with feed.
Right.
If you make shortcuts with feed, you're going to lose money. You understand? So for me, I try to make sure that I give the birds the best quality feed.
Okay.
That usually involves me mixing
Right.
the feed myself, but also buying particular raw materials from expensive raw
Yes.
materials.
Yes.
But the most important thing is to make sure that you get the best results. By best results, make sure that the birds are producing as well as possible.
Okay.
If the birds are producing well and they are laying the eggs,
Yes.
you don't give a damn about expensive feed. You can afford any feed.
Okay.
If the birds are not laying well,
Yes.
it doesn't matter how bad the shortcuts are
Right.
or how good the shortcuts are.
Okay.
It won't help.
Okay.
So the most important thing is that get the correct quality of the feed, whether it's a bit more expensive. If it can give you the best production, then you're sure that that's the correct feed.
Okay. Right. So that's an interesting conversation with the ever knowledgeable brilliant, powerful, oh my goodness, the founder of Farm Up. I'm sure you know this man. He's not a new face on YouTube. My name is Anyonam and this is the Ghanaian Farmer. We are all the way in Uganda, and I couldn't have left Uganda without visiting my most favorite farm. I'm going for a quick breather. When I come back, we'll wrap it up all on chicken farming here inside Farm Up. So if you're just tuning in, you're watching the Ghanaian Farmer. My name is Anyonam, but call me Ghana's finest farmer. And seated next to me is Dr. Daniel, the CEO of Farm Up, and we're all the way in Uganda inside his farm. Aren't we lucky? Now, Dr. Daniel, you talked about advising farmers on at what time to actually let go of your chickens and replace them. How long should a farmer keep their chickens for before letting go?
Yeah, that's I would say a bit of a technical question.
Okay.
Because it doesn't have a single answer. It depends, of course. I'm hoping you're talking about chickens for eggs. You understand? So the natural pattern of chickens is that they start to lay, usually at around 18 weeks.
Right.
And then their production will increase and peak at about 26 weeks.
Okay.
It will remain at the peak. That peak is around 95%. 95% means if you have 100 chickens, you get 95 eggs in that day. Now, what will happen is that it will slowly start coming down over the weeks. Yeah. And as it comes down, it reaches a point which in ideal someone would call diminishing returns.
Okay.
You understand? A point reaches where the production of the eggs, or how many eggs you're getting from the chickens, is not enough to sustain the farm.
Okay.
At that point, that's when you decide to get rid of the flock.
Okay.
You understand?
Right.
So what determines that? The cost of the eggs. So if the eggs are really expensive, you understand, then even if you're just making, let's say, 10 trays, you might be making enough money to feed the chickens.
Okay.
Unlike if the eggs are really cheap,
right.
You understand, you need a lot more eggs. You understand? Another one would be the cost of the feed, and that is the biggest factor, because the price of the eggs rarely ever fluctuates so big, but the price of the feeds fluctuates so much. So if the feed is really cheap, then you can keep your chickens for longer, because even if they are producing less, it's feeding them is not too expensive.
Okay.
So usually that happens anytime between 72 weeks and 100 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's around that time, depending on the cost of the feed, you'll be able to cull. So for me, for example, the very first house, one of the houses right there, the birds are at about 78 weeks. Yeah. And I'm still keeping them very well.
Okay.
You understand?
Right.
So it really depends. Also, it might depend on a few other factors. Maybe you're running out of space and you want to bring in a new flock. And despite the fact that the flock is profitable, the profit is not too much for you to simply keep utilizing the house. So maybe you want to bring in a new flock that will bring you more profit. You know, things like that.
Okay.
So it's a bit more technical and requires a bit of brain work.
Okay, I see. It depends on the brain work and technicality. But then crates. I see you're using plastic crates.
Yes.
Some others would also be using the paper crates. Now, I'm told that one of the easiest way to bring disease to your farm is crates. Now, these crates, when they go out, do they come back or they don't come back?
Yes, so these crates come back. As you can see, these are plastic crates.
Okay.
They can't not come back. They're really expensive.
Okay.
You understand?
Yes.
And even people who use paper crates, they bring them back. But then they are things that you have to do to make sure that doesn't happen. Number one, we wash them when they come down. When they come back, we make sure that we clean them. You understand?
Okay.
Yeah, because it's plastic, it's quite easy.
Yes.
Yeah, so we wash them and we disinfect them when they do come. That reduces on the risk of diseases.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, for a startup farmer, would you, I know each one comes with the client or the target market, but which one do you advise I go with? Is it layers or broilers?
For a startup farmer, if it depends on your ability and the confidence in yourself.
Right.
Yeah? If you're in a position where you feel you can do both layers and broilers, i.e. you can serve the market is there, then it will depend on the technicality, how easy it is for you to manage the farm and to start. The idea is that it is easier to start a broiler farm, and the risk is lower. You understand? Because you're only going to keep them around for 5 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and the birds are done. Number two, managing them is not complicated. You don't have a lot of vaccinations. You have very few things to do. You understand? So if your goal is to learn as you go, then you'd rather start with a broiler farm, and then as you learn and get more knowledge, implement that knowledge later on the layer farm. But if you're like me, you want to make money, you're willing to put in the hard work and learn as much as possible, then go right away with the layer farm.
Okay.
Get focused, put in as much hard work as possible, learn as much as possible, and just start with the layer farm. And,
people say chicken farming is very expensive, but people also say even though it's expensive, it is profitable as well. For you, how do you keep sustaining and expanding? Because there are a lot out there who have been in the space for a long time, however they are unable to progress.
Yes.
What is it that they're not doing right?
So it's about efficiency on the farm. You understand? Of course, it's expensive to start, and I said it while I was a doctor. I used my doctor salary to start. But the most important thing is a lot of people actually make farms and they don't make money out of the farm because they're not efficient. So the chickens don't lay very well, number one. Number two, they don't know how to deal with the feeding. For example, for me right here, I buy feed when the price is low and utilize it all throughout. So even when the price raises, I still have profit. If you're only buying on the go, you wait for the prices of feed to go up, then you buy at that time, you want to keep little money, you understand? So because of that, I make sure that my cost of production is as low as possible, number one. Number two, my efficiency of production is as high as possible. Then I get to keep more money and utilize that money to expand the farms.
I see.
Yes.
Workers. In Ghana, workers are one of the biggest headache for farmers.
Everywhere, not everywhere.
How do you keep them in check to ensure that there is efficiency, there is productivity at the end of the day?
The very first of all, you start with yourself. If you're not efficient, if you're not what you want your worker to be, don't expect your worker to,
How do you mean?
Because when you hire your first worker, you're going to train them based on your principles.
Of course.
You understand?
Yes.
So it's important that you are what you want your worker to be. You understand? Then when you hire your first workers, first of all, don't be afraid to fire. You understand?
Okay.
Yes. So when you get your first worker, he's crappy, fire them. The good thing is that in Africa, there's a lot of unemployment.
Yes.
Well, it's not a good thing, but it's a good thing for a farmer.
Okay.
Because that means you can cycle through as many workers as possible. It's not like in Europe where they are struggling to look for farm workers, You fire someone today, another person tomorrow wants the job. You understand? So even if you want to fire 4 people a month, fire them. When you get the right one, treat them well, keep them. You understand?
Okay.
Yes, and go through the same cycle. Keep hiring and firing. Now, when you get the right people, make sure you train them. It doesn't matter whether the right person or not. Get the people on your farm. Number one, make sure that they have the right farm mentality. You understand? So they have the correct information. Provide them with the tools they need. A lot of times, I once went and visited a farmer.
Yes.
And the farmer was complaining that the worker is really terrible. But the worker would request for medicine on the farm. The worker would request for a notebook to write down records.
Yes.
And the farm owner is like, well, if you don't have money to buy a notebook, leave that farm. What do you expect?
Okay.
You understand? Eh? So of course the farmer is going to the worker is going to get frustrated.
So
provide them with the tools they need. You get? You give them the tools they need so that then everything else is accountable to them. You have zero responsibility for them not doing the work they're supposed to be doing. So and then train them, give them the correct, I would say correct rules also. If someone is coming, let them know what they're supposed to be doing, their expectations, you understand? And I personally, another thing I really believe in is that workers do need rest.
Yes.
A lot of times on farms, because we feel like it's a farm, people don't give workers rest.
At all.
But they are human beings. How do you expect someone to be efficient and give you the best results without resting?
Exactly.
So for me, what I try to do is at least I give everyone a day off a week.
Okay.
You understand?
Yes.
And maybe someone might not take it all together. They might accumulate it and take it as 2 weeks at some point.
Okay.
You understand? But they have that time off. Now, of course, that means that I have to pay extra money because for me to be able to do that, I usually have to have an extra worker for the day someone is off.
Okay.
But the extra money I pay for that worker's salary for a month, earns me more than me having tired workers who do everything terribly, and the productivity of the farm just comes down.
I know.
You understand?
I
So
know.
I'd rather pay that money and make sure that the farm is efficient and I'm getting the best results than not pay it, and people are not, people are demoralized, everyone is stressed. That's not good.
There's this debate about caged poultry farming versus the open one, where they are all in one place, running around, feeling free, walking and all that. Some are saying cage farming is expensive. Some are saying cage farming, you are punishing the chicken. Some are saying when there's a disease, it would spread if you have the open. Where is your stand in this? Does it come with its own benefit and disadvantages?
Yeah. I think it's, I honestly don't believe that this is a debate. It's facts. Each one of it has its own facts, and everyone just chooses what they want based on what they want. It's like finding two women, one slim and another is
oh, that's a Daniel.
You understand? You choose the one you want. It's a fact one is slim, one is thick.
Right.
Same exact thing. It's a fact that starting a cage farm is more expensive.
Okay.
And starting, for example, my deep litter here is cheaper.
Okay.
It's also a fact that managing a cage farm is easier and cheaper.
Okay.
Because you only need one worker to manage very many chickens. You understand? It's also a fact that you don't need a lot of land, for example, to start a cage farm. You understand? So the idea is that you just need to look at your position. You understand? And another one is also the animal welfare. It's a fact that deep litter has better animal welfare than cages. You understand? So you just need to consider yourself. Do I want a fat woman or a slim one? You understand? So do I want animals with good animal welfare or not?
Okay.
If your mind is biased and you're like, I want my chickens free, you go for the other. If you're like, well, I'm ready to invest the money starting out, but then I because I prefer to have less running costs, because I have less workers, for my house to take up less space, then I'll go with this. You understand?
Right.
So each one of it has its own merits, and depending on what you prefer as a person, you choose which one to go with. Yeah.
What becomes of the chicken manure? Do you sell them? Because right now it's big business in Ghana. What becomes of your chicken manure? Do you just
so I personally don't sell it because I utilize it. Yeah, I do have gardens, I do have, places like that where I utilize it. But people sell it, and it's good business here in Uganda too.
How important is record keeping for farming? A lot of farmers always say it's like their head is a laptop or a computer, and then each time this sales goes, he said, okay, I have it here. He bought this, I have it. Is that a good practice for a farmer?
So the farmers who never keep records, I can tell you something, never grow. Just go and ask all of them. Of course, they won't tell you that they're not growing. But just look at their history and see. Because if you're not keeping records, you don't know what's coming in, what's going out. You don't know anything. And the thing with farming is that we make decisions. It's just like any business, not just farming. Any business, decisions are made based on data. You understand? So if you don't have data to work with, how do you do anything? For example, I always ask people when I go to visit their farms, what is the percentage production in your farm? They have no idea.
Clueless.
Some people don't even know how many chickens they have. You understand? The person is like, I brought in 1,000 chickens. You understand? Of course, some have been dying along the way. They don't know how many have died. So how do you know? You understand? How do you know that the chickens are not laying well? How do you know that the guys are not stealing your eggs? There's a farmer I once visited, and because I supplied the old chicks, I supplied her the old chicks. And after some time, she got angry at me. She wasn't talking to me because her chickens were producing really terribly. So she believed I gave her poor quality chickens. So a time reached for her to sell the chickens, because I think she decided to sell them when they're about 30 weeks. I've told you we can sell anything after 72 weeks. So that was so early. So she decided to sell the chickens. And on the day of selling the chickens, when the people come to buy the chickens, she was counting the birds, and instead of 1,000, she had 600 chickens. So the chickens were actually laying perfectly for the number. You understand? But the workers were picking out one by one. You understand? And they go sell. You understand? So if you don't have that data, you don't have that statistics, how do you work with anything? You understand? So she made a really terrible decision. You understand? At that point, simply because she didn't have the records. She should actually have kept the birds because they were profitable. You understand? So you need records for you to run your farm successfully.
How will you describe your journey so far? Quitting from corporate work, becoming a commercial farmer. How would you describe the journey? Any regret, any achievement? How would you describe the journey?
No, there are zero regrets for me. There are zero regrets, and I feel like I've just started. No, I haven't yet started actually. Yeah, we're just starting, you know.
Dr. Daniel has become like the Olympics. Everybody has to go, you know. You are just starting.
Yeah, I'm just starting. So it has been very beautiful starting out. Honestly, it was a lot of hard work and a lot of things to learn. But after learning and implementing all these things, it becomes nice. Like I was telling you, the beginning is usually the harder bit. Yeah. When I started out, every time I would come on the farm, I would just put on overalls, gumboots, enter the chicken houses. Right now, I barely do it. I mean, I can come, stay on this farm for 2 weeks, and I don't enter a single chicken house.
Whoa.
You understand? Eh? Yeah, because I understand, I trust the systems, I trust the guys and what they are doing. They'll give me data, and I can just take a look at the data and be like, there's something wrong here. You understand? Because they report to me every day, each and every day. So I just take a look at the data, I'm like, there's something wrong. Now I need to intervene. You understand? Eh? So because of that, I kind of understand how to run the business.
The farm.
So it's quite easy for me to scale right now without too much effort compared to what it was
before.
At the beginning. Yeah. So honestly, it's very nice and I love it. Yeah.
Okay, so that's Dr. Daniel. For the other name, I have to go and eat banku in Ghana and come back and come and mention. But Dr. Daniel, we are so much grateful for your time.
Thank you.
We hope that the next time we come, this whole place will be full of chickens.
Sure.
But I realize you're also adding a bit of gold. And what business do you have to do with local chickens? Didn't you say nobody should do local chickens because it's not profitable?
Yeah. So I do local chickens for my pleasure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not business. Yeah. No, people can do local chickens. It's actually profitable depending on the scale you do it and where you are. You understand? But for me as a person, for example, where I am, it doesn't make sense. So I do local chickens in another area, but for my pleasure, for my eating pleasure and things like that, but not for business.
Okay.
Yes.
And the goat too?
I do goats, but those are business.
Okay.
Now, of course, they are less profitable compared to chickens. But it's also business. You see, they say never put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's simply trying to spread the risk.
Thank you very much, my brother.
A pleasure.
Thank you so much. Hey guys, this has been amazing. For Dr. Daniel, I can even spend 1 week extra in Uganda. But thank you so much for watching us. How do we find you on YouTube again? Yeah,
on YouTube, you can go to Farm Up. Just type in Farm Up on YouTube. On X, which was Twitter, Dr. Daniel Masaba. Facebook and Instagram is also Farm Up. So you can find me right there. Okay.
Now, are investors open to come and do business with you, or there's nothing like
no
I know this guy so much. I know nothing of that sort. But thank you so much for watching us. But there is more. I hope to come back next time and still learn more from him. For him, I'm motivated. I feel like doing chicken, but I'm so scared with the whole hula baloo that come with chicken. But for Dr. Daniel, maybe I'll just try my hands on it and see how it goes. But until then, thank you so much for spending your time with us. We are very grateful. If there's any question I did not ask Dr. Daniel, like he said, check him up on YouTube, Farm Up, and drop your question right there. He will be answering them for you. But until then, thank you so much. And the chickens you give out every now and then, what is that? Is that corporate social responsibility?
Oh yes. Once in a while we do give out chickens for for PR purposes. Yes.
I said this guy is so rich, he'll be packing chickens plenty for people to come and take for free. But it's good. You've really done well.
Thank you.
We admire you and you motivate us so well. Thank you so much.